Hello, beautiful friends, and welcome to Elemental Connections, where we're talking about the unseen realms of nature, connecting humanity closer with the elemental realms. And today I have beautiful Katy Tucker with us, and she is from Starlight. And Katy, you do lots of different things within Starlight, don't you? So just firstly, welcome. Thank you so much for being up for the chat.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love the name Elemental Connections. I think
it's been floating around me for years, and I'm like, oh, I've got an opportunity to use it.
It's wonderful, and I'm really, really honoured and excited to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, a little bit about what you do, just to give you a bit of a background of who you are, because you run lots of different things within Starlight.
We do. Starlight is a company that really does all sorts of ceremonies, workshops, courses, and travel journeys that are about spiritual empowerment and connection. There's like a huge range within it, because we tend to just kind of go with the flow. I run it with my girlfriend, and we tend to kind of go with the flow and go with what is guided. I'm a channel, so I guess the thing that unites it all is everything is channeled and everything is guided. But I tend to work with whichever guides want to come. So there's a big broad range of guides and energies, and through that lots of different things, from kind of shamanic ceremonies to lots of women's work. And I think the main reason for Starlight on a bigger picture level is we do quite a lot of light work and earth work and portal work and grid work. And so whilst it's all about empowering people and developing their connection, the kind of big global picture is about working, helping the earth assist in its ascension and vibrational changes. And so, yeah, there's a real mix, but I like that. I think it would be, I've always liked variety in my life, and I think your path really kind of suits who you are. And so it's certainly never boring.
I feel you as a totally multi-dimensional being. I've only met you once. I came to one of your rooftop fire ceremonies down on the seafront in Brighton. It's so beautiful. It was really powerful, actually, and really shifted quite a lot of stuff for me, which was just showing up the next day. It was an amazing experience.
The fire ceremonies are amazingly powerful for shifting things quickly, actually.
And actually, we go straight in there working with the elements and the elementals, and you're working with the fire.
Yeah.
Prayer.
Then. And I think that ceremony, what my guides say about ceremony, which I really love as a concept, is they say that ceremony speaks to the parts of you that don't speak English, so or the language that you speak. And so, you know, if you think of the mind as being the English speaker or the language speaker, there's all these other parts of you that are maybe not as fluent in the language of the mind. And that's why ceremony is so powerful, because it speaks to the parts of, ceremony is a much older, much more symbolic, much more ancient language. And that's why I think it's so powerful, because it speaks to those parts of you that are maybe like, I don't understand what this mind language is saying.
Oh, that's a really beautiful way of it.
Yeah.
Ceremony's language, I've never sort of seen it like that.
Oh,
that's stunning.
And it's a really ancient language. You know, ceremony is part of every culture in the world, and I kind of think that something that every culture does has got to be on the right track. Like, if everywhere in the world is doing it, it's going to be right. And I think that it's also something that we just do innately. You know, a Western third dimensional ceremony can be anything. When people go and get pissed on their 18th birthday, that is a form of ceremony. It's not that ceremony has any rules. It's just a way of marking the end and the beginning of something. And that's why it's so transformational, if you use it with the right intentions, you know?
Yeah, and you're including, so then to sort of bring in the, for me to bring in the elementals into that, like, it feels to me it's a language of talking to the elementals and including nature, and like you say, going beyond the mind and tapping it into these underlying structures within life. Does that
And
make sense?
tapping into nature, and if you're doing a fire ceremony, for example, you're honoring the process that a fire does, which fire is like the most transformational of the elements, even though all of them have transformation within them. And so you're kind of honoring that part of nature that has the ability to instantly transform, and you're finding that within yourself. And I think when you connect to nature, you're on the right track. Like, what humans are getting wrong is they're being out of nature, they're being disconnected from the place that they're living, from the flow that they're living. And actually, I think when you talk about elemental spirits and fairies and things like that, one of their biggest teachings is how to live in harmony with nature, and how to enjoy the planet and thrive on the planet. One of the most lovely messages I had from the fairies was they were saying, everybody's always looking up when they're channeling. They're always trying to get information from the star beings and the angels and the goddesses, but we're the ones that are fifth dimensional and we're the ones that live here. So we can tell you much more about how to be ascended, and in physical form and in energetic form, because in a way the elementals are in physical form, because their physical form is plants. Their physical form, they shake out the physical form of the world. So they move between spirit and physical form. And so they have a much greater understanding of how to be physical and on earth and be ascended than a lot of these other beings that are, some, not discrediting the channeling of those other beings, but the most intimate understanding are the ones that are actually here, that are actually living it with us.
I love that. Yes.
And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I've so received the same message as well. So it's really lovely to hear that coming back from somebody else too. Yeah, they're right here, right now, wanting to support and help us.
Definitely, and they're so much fun. Like I love very much channeling the elementals, because they are so unserious and so joyful. And actually, particularly the fairies, or my fairy guides in particular, are very like rude. They will tell it like it is. They don't kind of beat around the bush. They're very like, yeah, you need to sort it out, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? And I kind of really like that, like, directness. And when they're around, they just, certainly they come quite a lot on Starlight events, and when they're around, the whole group is just in fits of laughter. Like they, one of the ways that fairies release is through laughter. And so we can be doing this very, very deep transformational work that's very, very emotional, and then the fairies will come in and be like, you don't actually have to cry. Like, you could just laugh it out. And they just bring so much joy, and I love that. I think that's there's so much to learn from them about life and about healing and about communing with nature, and at land, and like I said, living on this planet. That's what, more than anything, I think they're here to teach, is how to thrive on this planet.
Yeah.
How to be alive on this planet.
Amazing. I love everything that you've just said. And when I tuned in beforehand, the word joy was what I got. It was like what wanted to come through. So I love that you've just spoken to that straight away. That's what I feel with them. It's that kind of, it just, the invitation to lighten up all the time, and to not take the spiritual process so seriously too, because we've become so serious. in everything, in the healing and getting it right and doing things right and not messing up, and they just, I get these images of them just falling over themselves all the time and playing and cartwheeling and like just really kind of crazy little images.
They're just kind of in child spirit mode, even though they're very wise and they have, you know, as far as I'm aware, fairies don't really like to be referred to as children because they're like, we're much older than you. But they do have this kind of ability to embrace the play of childlike energy. I mean, there's one meditation that I've done with the fairies a few times that is a fairy chakra healing, and they literally like come into your chakras and like beat your chakras up, and they're just like, there you go, done. But it's really releasing, and like they just like to kind of like jump on your chakras and work with the energy, but it's in this really like reckless way, you know. It's much more reckless than any other being would ever treat your chakras, but because of that it's so releasing because they're just like fun, you know. And, I love that kind of joyful, reckless directness that they bring to everything, you know. I've seen fairies upset before. There was one time that it was actually summer solstice a couple of years ago. We were doing sunrise on Hampstead Heath, and there is a fairy place on Hampstead Heath. There's kind of a big old Merlin tree, and somebody had lit a fire under this very, very important fairy portal, and all of the ground was damaged. And it's the only time I have ever channeled fairies, and they've been really serious, and they were really pissed off. They were like, you humans come along and you don't care about anybody else or anything else, and you have no respect. And they just like gave us the equivalent of political fairy speech. But I think that's also why they're so relatable, because they have human emotions and they have human expressions, and you know, they understand the alchemy of the earth and the emotion of the earth. And so they don't, you know, it's not just all like love and harmony and stuff with the fairies, which is wonderful when you're connecting to something like angels, but sometimes it's almost harder to relate to that as human beings with all of our emotional complexities. Do you know what I mean? And so I think I love them for the fact that they really kind of run with every emotion that they have, you know, and they'll have it and they'll express it and they'll work through it and be honest about it. And they're actually very similar to humans because they're earth beings, you know.
That's really useful. I don't think I've connected to them in the way that you're describing, so this is fascinating to like hear this aspect of them. It's really wonderful.
They were, yeah, it's the only time, and then I've channeled fairies a lot, but it's the only time I've ever, and they were still gentle about it, and they were still I guess fifth dimensional about it, but they were really, it felt like a moment where they were like, oh, just come on. Like, why do humans think it's okay to just ever ask permission from anything or anyone? And that's what they were angry about, you know.
And I received a few years ago something around the gnomes, and they were saying how they had retreated, and actually they were quite angry. They were really angry with what we were doing, and then they realized that their anger was actually, it was almost like they were becoming, it was taking them away from who they were, and it was like they were sliding down into something that wasn't in alignment, so they had to bring themselves back to meet us again. It was really like, it's quite interesting.
And yeah, I think that's what's lovely about the elementals, is they're really in it with us, you know. They're really in this ascension process with us, even though they are more ancient, they have more wisdom, they have more understanding, they're more ascended. They're really assisting in this process. Like nearly every time we do light work, one of the sets of elementals will be around supporting in some way from some place, because it's their planet too. It's their it's their ascension journey as well, and so there's a wonderful kind of comradeship with that, and teamwork. And I think teamwork sometimes means that you get angry with each other or upset with each other or need to have a word with each other. But again, I like that because it feels so much more relatable as a human, you know, to more than any other guide in a way. Like it's like, okay, I'm dealing with a being, an energy that has the same range of emotions as me, the same expressions as me, and understands the earth so much and loves the earth more than me. You know, that's really, really special, I think.
Oh, that's really beautiful. And so do they work, you were saying they work with you in everything that you do you think? Do you feel their presence?
The fairies are often around me. I have, my guides call it like fairy blood. When they talk about somebody having a connection to anything, they refer to it as like fairy blood or starbeing blood. And I have a lot of fairy blood, so the fairies are often around me. And I also do a lot of work with crystals, and so through that they're around me. They come in and out of the work that I do. So sometimes, very occasionally, we'll do something completely dedicated to fairies. Like the last thing we did was this fairy camping weekend in the New Forest that was just, I think, the most maddest weekend of my life. Like we were in fits of laughter for the whole weekend and running around the forest with the fairies, throwing biodegradable glitter everywhere and healing out in a child and things like that. But generally they will come. So if we're doing a journey, for example, that's a week or a few days, that generally the fairies will have at least one ceremony where they're direct voice channeling and where it's their ceremony. And actually the people that kind of come to several things that Starlight do are always like, oh, we really want the fairies to come out, because out of all of the kind of ceremonies, the fairies tend to bring the most joy and the most laughter and the most fun, and like I said, they cause everybody to have fits of laughter, and so people really kind of look forward to the fairy ceremonies, I think.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I work with other elementals as well. So I work with gnomes and tree spirits, and whoever wants to come can come, you know.
Yeah, well, so like I was saying to you earlier, like a pixie appeared here today for me, and I really felt that was just connected with you. Like I don't often see pixie energy, but like this little pixie, he came in and just let his presence be known, wanted to bring in some joy and playfulness.
Oh, I love the elementals. They're so sweet, and they do like to have their presence known, definitely, you know. Like I said, they're so much more, well, I find they're so much more, just kind of humanesque in a way than a lot of other guides. Like if we know that there's a big fairy thing coming up, they want loads of presents and offerings, you know, like they're like, yeah, we didn't work for free, you guys don't work for free, like, you know. And
I'd love to talk about that a little bit, actually, the offering side of it, because that's something that comes and goes for me. I do it for a little while. If I make chocolates, I don't think I should eat chocolate. And I'm sure, like yesterday, I'm like, I don't think I'm doing this for me. I think I need to make it and give it to them, because sometimes I make chocolates a bit too much for my system. There are certain foods they really like, and I can hear them, and they want me to feed them.
And they're really demanding. Like in a way that I deeply respect, but they are like, no, this is what, you know, I make a lot of offerings to a lot of different guides for the work that we do. And most of them, it's kind of my free will, whatever I offer. But if you're offering to the fairies, they're like, we want this, we want this. Like, they don't want like you just to give them whatever you think. They're very kind of like, this is what we want, this is what we're having. And I really like that about them. I think it's really, you know, they're very good at manifesting the fairies, and that kind of level of being able to say directly what you want so confidently, so freely, is such a good lesson in manifesting for humans. You know, there's no guilt, there's no shame, there's no timidness. They're just like, yeah, no, we want honey and chocolate and roses and a crystal. Like, there's no kind of holding back on what their demands are. Really,
I love that. Yeah, that's really great teaching for us. Really great teaching. And do you have a way of giving to them? Like, do you have a studio ceremony, or do you just like give them what they want?
So it really depends. I mean, if we're, there's certain places in places like Glastonbury and Avebury that I know are places where the fairies like to be gifted to. And if I'm going to those places, I wouldn't come without gifts. And so those are kind of places where you'd like, usually we're with a group, so we'd ceremonially gift to them. But if I know I've got work with the fairies coming up, or if I'm guided to offer to them, then it tends to be more in flow, in the sense that they will tell me what they want and where they want it. Or sometimes it's just flow, like you're walking in the woods or something and you suddenly feel like you're meant to do an offering there and then, you know, so it's kind of depends what you're doing.
Yeah,
Interestingly, I was guided to do an offering on our roof last year in a plant pot, you know, bright and full of salty sea wind, and and the winter winds are really bad, and like this plant pot was completely dead basically. And I did this offering, and I didn't really know what it was for, but they just told me to do it, so I put this offering on the roof. And since then the plant pot's been full of like flowers and life, and it really feels like the fairies have brought it back to life. And in spring it was filled with tiny little wild flowers, and now it's filled with these kind of big summery flowers. So, you know, it works.
so beautiful. I love that. So beautiful. And that really kind of shows how, like, working with the elementals, like, we can really help to sort of receive the earth in a way, you know, and like when we connect with them like this, it's like we're opening this doorway where we can begin to create more beauty by working together.
Definitely. And I think they can really teach us how to live here and manifest all that we want. And like I said, you know, they are very good manifestors, and so they can teach us how to manifest all that we want in the physical without it damaging the planet, which is surely one of the big things that humans need to learn at this time. And you know, there are actually all sorts of different fairies, but there are what my guides call fairies with black wings, that you actually don't meet. They're not kind of the little fairies that you have flying around the flowers. They hang out deep within the earth, and they're much more like, how they're always shown to me is a bit like bikers or metalheads, you know. They got these like big beards and these big black wings, and they're alchemists, and they work with the energy that is released into the earth and take it through the alchemy process to recycle it back into life. And I think that alchemy is something I'm channeling about a lot at the moment, and it's so important for our ascension journey, is to learn how to recycle ourselves, to recycle our energy, to be in the alchemy process, and understand where we belong in the alchemy process, that is the alchemy of the earth. And again, I think fairies and all elementals understand that alchemy process.
I think that's really beautiful, and so often I think people can be afraid of releasing their stuff to the earth, or giving, like they don't want to contaminate anything with their bad energy, and like I so get that message, and I see it with the gnomes as well. They've shown me that they do that. They're part of that process as well. It's like composting, isn't it? It's like sending back the old energy so that it can be refreshed and be brought back into harmony. That's amazing. I didn't know that there were fairies that like lived like in the earth like that. I've always seen them as kind of gnome beings, or kind of.
There are gnomes too. I think they're, as far as I can tell, their roles are slightly different. They work with different types of energy. Right. And the fairies with black wings are, apparently the normal fairies are a little bit scared of them, but I've channeled them before, and they're not.
They do like the hardcore energy.
Yeah. They're not scary. They're just different as an energy from the kind of little funny fairies that fly around the flowers. Yeah. And actually, every spirit is part of the alchemy. Every earth spirit is part of the alchemy process of the earth. Like, they have different roles within it, but there is not one elemental spirit belonging to any of the elements that doesn't work with the alchemy process of the earth. And I think one of the beautiful messages that I had about releasing energy is, what is waste to us is nutrients for something else, and that is how the earth thrives and survives. So what we breathe out, the trees like to breathe in, basically. And so when you're scared of releasing energy, or you're not releasing energy, I think it was Gaia that was giving me this message, but she was saying that if you don't release energy, you're actually denying something that wants that energy, that energy is good for. It's like you not breathing out. It's meant to go somewhere. It has somewhere to go, and it has somewhere that it's useful and nutrient to and beautiful to. And so you can actually see you're releasing not just simply as a release, but as a gifting and as an offering.
That's so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, and it makes it much easier to let it all go then, because you're like, I'm offering this.
That's so lovely. I love that. And then it's like it's saying like everything that is within us is okay. That there's nothing wrong with anything, even our thought forms. It's like,
and has a place and has an energy and has something that wants it and will thrive off it, because that is the beauty of Gaia. That is the beauty of the temple of alchemy that is this planet. And yeah, if you kind of change the perspective and see, I'm gonna give this to wherever it is meant to go as an offering, then it makes it much easier to release what's not of service to you. Makes your transformation process much quicker. And actually, I'm sure some people will be listening being like, oh, but what about plastic and things like that? I think, from what I can understand, the expression of the pollution on the planet is partly a purging that needs to happen for our ascension, and partly a lesson so that we understand that we are being wasteful and unconscious and unceremonial in the way that we're taking, receiving and leaving. But also the planet is also adapting. Like, there's already an algae in the Amazon that has worked out how to break down plastic and live off plastic. So, the world will always respond and find a place for anything that is created. And that isn't to say we should continue dumping the plastic or anything like that, but it's just to kind of expand out of that fear and understand that all of this waste will eventually be used by the planet in some way, because this purging is part of our ascension journey and something that we need to experience. And so at some point it will be, after the lesson is learned, it will be taken and sorted out, because that's what the planet does.
And that's a real beautiful invitation to come out of fear. That's when you say that. Yeah, but we don't need to be afraid of being human and the things that we're doing.
And
that fear is almost it's kind of, I was going to say worse than the plastic, but not like bad, but it's not so useful.
I think that the fear, it's funny, I'm really like exploring what keeps us separate from nature at the moment. And I think what keeps us separate from nature is judgment, of which fear is the future version of judgment, and hurt is the past version of judgment. And, you know, nature kind of is just in acceptance and in flow and in the wholeness of the process. And also nature reflects us, and the world reflects us, and kind of as outside, so inside. And I really feel kind of what the planet and the natural world and the elementals are expressing to us at the moment is how full of fear and chaos and disconnection our body is, which is why the earth is dirty. Our thoughts are, which is why the air is dirty, and our emotions are, which is why the water is dirty. And as we clean ourselves inside, we change the reality outside. And that isn't to say you shouldn't take action outside. Like, it is a two-way thing. It's just it is a two-way thing, and it is a dance. And again, it's one of the teachings of the elements. Like, you can really change things by changing things on the inside, and that actually then changes your actions anyway. And so it's a dance, it's a flow between you and the elements, and we are all one. And the more we can kind of understand and embody that, the more all of what is in crisis begins to heal, because we are the ones that are in crisis. The earth is not in crisis. You know, we are the ones that need to ascend, that need to transform, not the earth. The earth knows what she's doing. The elements know they're helping, but they know what they're doing. They're helping because they know what they're doing. You know?
Beautiful. Yeah, Gaia has said to me before, don't worry, I'm a master manifestor. I know what to do. Like, which is
I find it really peculiar when everybody says we're killing the planet. I'm like, we're not killing the planet. Like, we might kill human life on the planet if we don't sort it out, but the planet is not going to die. The planet, like, we do not have the power to kill the planet, you know? Like, we only have the power to kill human life on the planet. So it's up to us whether we self-destruct or not, really.
Oh, so it's such a time just to come back and embrace the beauty and within ourselves.
Definitely. And I think that's another teaching of the fairies and the elements. They really teach you to love nature, and to, you know, they really, like, I've channeled the fairies by myself, and they'll be like, look at this flower. Like, they really want you to fall in love with nature, because they understand that human beings are never going to save anything that they don't love. Like, they're never going to prioritize anything that they don't love. And I feel like a lot of the elementals that are channeling at the moment are actually just trying to get us to appreciate how amazing it is, because that is how people will stop littering and stuff. They're not going to do it out of fear. They're not going to do it out of being preached at. They're going to do it because they're going to be like, oh my God, I've had these amazing experiences in the ocean. Why would I hurt the ocean? You know, And again, that's one of the beautiful teachings of the elementals. It's like, it doesn't have to be complicated. You just have to fall in love with
It's so simple. That's so simple, elegant, and beautiful, and available.
it.
Available. I mean, who can't fall in love with a flower? I mean, maybe some people find that difficult, but yeah, it just invites us. It invites us to fall in love. That was the last message that I got on my last walk. It was just like, like nature just wanted us to go in there, wants us to go in there and fall in love, and just to receive the beauty. Yeah, it's such a beautiful journey.
It is, and the elementals are very good at making everything beautiful and making everything simple and making everything joyful, and yet being honest. You know, my fairy guides are very honest. They don't.
I really appreciate that honesty. I think it's really beautiful. Like the more that we can receive that honesty and it's not attacking or anything, and it's just, this is what it is, then that's really beautiful. I think that's something that's shifting right now. I'm noticing that in my circles, that, like, just with talking with friends, it's like honesty that's coming in. And it's really, everybody's kind of getting empowered. It's like, yeah, I'm going to say what I feel, and the other person's going to go, yeah, I'm going to listen to what you're saying, and I'm not going to be offended. I'm going to, you know, like, it's really, yeah, it's fun.
Really interesting. I mean, honesty is really coming. I'm finding that, like, I can't stop myself from just saying what I probably wouldn't have said to people before.
You too.
And I think that's kind of where we are collectively. I know a lot of people are talking about that experience happening. Yeah. It's so brilliant, because until you're honest with yourself and with each other, we're never going to fully ascend. You know, we've got to kind of stop all of the lying. And yeah, the fairies have taught me a lot about honesty, I think, you know, and they're so straight up. I'm trying to think of an example, but so in our Ibiza journey last year, the fairy ceremony that we did was a sunrise ceremony, and it was at the end of a very, very big energetic journey where the group had just done so much energy work, so much portal work. We've been so through the dimensions, and like everybody at this point was tired. And we were told quite firmly we had to do the sunrise ceremony. So we were like, and the fairies just came in and they were like, humans should be called the tribe of tired. I think get over it. And of course everybody starts laughing, and then everybody's awake, and they're like, yeah, why are we choosing to be tired, you know? Like, why are we choosing? We're only tired because we think it's sunrise, and we've decided that it's earlier than we normally get up, you know? And it is that kind of honesty that I think the elementals bring to things, that is done with yeah, maybe a slight bit of sarcasm, but so much joy and so much kindness and so much love and laughter that it makes you laugh at yourself and break out of yourself, you know, and that's a really wonderful way to transform and transcend and awake.
Very clever. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so enjoying all of everything that you shared here. It's such a rich, deep conversation. I feel like this.
Yeah, thank you
to talk about. And so before we finish, I wonder if there's anything else that you feel maybe wants to be shared, that wants to come through you, or anything that you feel like.
What the fairies are saying to me now is they are saying that lots of people that watch this are going to be saying, but how do we connect to fairies? Like, how do we do that? And what they're saying is just ask. They're saying that fairies are actually some of the easiest energies to channel and connect to, because they are on Earth. They are here. You can connect to them like this. You don't kind of have to send your energy into other dimensions and other places. And they're saying that you know, they're saying that the fairies are kind of, they were slightly offended by the whole "you don't believe in us" thing. And so if you are willing to believe in us, we will come and prove ourselves to you. And that's what they're saying. And so ask. And they're saying it's okay to ask with some doubt. It's okay to ask for proof. They don't mind that. But if you want to know how to connect with fairies, then the first step is to say, okay, come on, I'm willing to be shown that you might exist. I'm willing to believe in you. And now they're saying, like, and give us a present.
Yeah.
We'll come.
I really think the present thing works so well. It really does. It really does. Like when I go out, I take dried flowers or make little mandalas. There are so many different ways that you can do it as well.
Tie a ribbon to a tree. You can give. I mean, fairy. I have to say that the fairy queen actually told me off because she said I was giving too much sugar to the fairies, but. Sugar is like fairy crack. Like if you want to connect to the fairies, give them honey or natural sugar. I tend not to give anything that is going to be bad for the planet, but anything that can be biodegradable or given on a third dimensional level to the planet or is of the planet is a great gift. And you can just follow your heart, invite your inner child. This is the other thing that they're showing me, is your inner child knew how to connect to fairies. Do not tell me that you did not play with fairies as an inner child. So if you are feeling stuck and feeling like you want to connect with fairies, connect to your inner child, connect to that wonder, to that sense of play and imagination and all of those things that your child had so much connection with, and through the gateway of your child's imagination you will reconnect with fairy energy. And ask for signs, ask for proof. They're saying to me something that they've channeled to me before, but the rule, I guess, with the fairies, and it probably is the only rule, is if you believe in magic, magic believes in you. So it's up to you whether you want to kind of open up to that world. But I strongly recommend it. It's a much more fun way of living on the planet. It's much more joyful way of living on the planet is to connect. Oh, and the other thing they're showing me is you can, even if it's a house plant, but basically every plant has a spirit. And so if the concept of connecting to a fairy that isn't connected to something physical is hard for you, start by connecting to the plant, connecting to the personality and the energy of the plant, and what spirit is coming from this plant. And it will either be an elf or a fairy or a tree being. Trees are really, really good because they're really used to communicating with humans, so they're a really good place to start. But just start there even, and that starts to open it up and open up the connection and the flow.
Beautiful. That's really wonderful tips there. So grounding and easy for everybody. Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much for coming and sharing so much with us.
Thank you. It's been a bit fast. My fairies are like they have a lot to say. They like the spotlight. But thank you.
And we talked about maybe doing speaking again and doing it from nature, from the woods or something.
That would be lovely. I think it would be really wonderful to
be fun.
do something from from a place where the fairies are, because they're not so into indoor. So it would be lovely, and maybe we can show like an offering or something like that,
the
fairies want to channel.
Beautiful. Oh, well, thank you so much, Katy, for being here. And I will leave a link to your website so people can find you and explore everything that you're offering.
And thank you for this amazing giving voice to the elementals. I'm really feeling how excited they are. They definitely don't want to be in hiding, you know, or they definitely want to be spoken about and acknowledged and storied about, you know, and I really feel their gratitude for this amazing project.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much, and yay.
So thank you everybody who's watched, and I hope you will play with the ideas that Katy's brought forward to bring the fairies and the elementals closer into your life. So much love to you, and I will see you again soon.
Thank you.